What if the premonitions are not because you're supposed to die, but because you're not supposed to die? Hey everybody, it's me, Mina. Welcome back to Mina's Mortuary, where I talk about all things horror. I was not planning on making another video so soon, but then Final Destination Bloodlines came out and I have to talk about it, so we're gonna talk about it. If you ain't seen the movie, I don't know why you talking to me, because I'm gonna spoil everything. I don't know how to talk about it and not spoil it. I've tried in the past to be like, here's my spoiler-free review. No, I'm gonna talk about it. I can't promise you that I'm not gonna slip into something. But I guess, if you want a really quick spoiler-free part and then you leave and go watch the movie and come back, I will say I thought that it was a fun movie. Like most Final Destination movies are fun, not necessarily scary, but had a lot of ridiculous, interesting kills that I liked, in the sense that who would have thought that that would have been something that could happen to somebody, but didn't like as much, in the sense that a lot of it was like CGI. There's a lot of CGI gore that I wasn't really here for. And yeah, there's your spoiler-free review of it. Go watch it. It's got Tony Todd in it. Like, I shouldn't have to say anything else. That's all we're getting from that man ever again. Like, go watch it. Anyway, talking about Tony Todd, and that was the most emotional moment of the scene of the movie, where he is telling them how everybody has been coming to him for decades trying to figure out how to cheat death. And then he says the only person who ever successfully managed to do it was Kimberly from Final Destination 2. And that confirms that her doing that whole drowning and then being brought back to life thing did work to save her life, which was great. But then everybody else has died. Everybody else has died. Everyone who's tried died. And the Final Destination, whatever the number, the one that is supposed to be the very beginning of the timeline, so the one that came out later, when you like take somebody's life, that also seems to have worked, but the person who did it ended up taking the wrong life and ended up dying. So there's really no way to cheat death. At the end of the day, outside of Kimberly being brought back to life, there was no other way to cheat death. And them asking him, like, it's got to be something, there's got to be something, there's got to be something. And he's like, everybody comes to me saying, there's got to be a way to cheat it. I tell them this is how you do it, and they don't listen to me. And then they all end up dying anyway. And so what was really emotional about it was him talking about how he was tired of running. He was tired of fighting. He's gotten, a good 50 years out of Iris saving his life, and her doing everything to keep herself alive has warded off death for everybody else. But he's like, hey, my time has come. I'm tired. And rather than fighting everything to the last breath, I'd rather take the time to enjoy what I have left. He's talking about, like, life is precious and you should enjoy it while you have it. And I was just in there emotional, like, Tony, I'm not someone who gets emotional, but knowing that this is, someone who's dying in real life and in the movie telling us this, it was a really emotional moment. And again, I like to go to this theater that's in the middle of nowhere. So there was like 4, maybe 5 other people max in the whole theater. So I can imagine if you were in there with a ton of people, there would have been a lot of emotional reactions, but it was just me sitting there with all of the snacks that I snuck in. Didn't even have to sneak in. I mean, honestly, people working there don't give a fuck. Moving on. But yeah, that was the most emotional part. And I could not say for no other reason to watch this movie, if you're a fan of horror, just to see Tony. I almost wanted to pull out my phone and record it, but I also just wanted to be in the moment as he was delivering his lines. And so I didn't pull out my phone and record it. I'm sure somebody has gone on and did that and posted in their reels or their shorts on social media, and you can go find it. But it was just a really emotional moment. So what this movie is, and I hope that they probably aren't planning to, but there's no other movies that need to be made after this movie. This movie was really the ending of this entire series. It wraps everything up very neatly, very succinctly. It answers all of the questions. So I'm going to answer the questions for you here right now. So this starts way, way back in the 50s with Iris and her boyfriend, Paul Campbell. They go to this sky tower thing that you've seen in all of the trailers. And basically, Iris randomly has a premonition. And in having that premonition, she disrupts everything that ends up saving everybody. The key to this, because people ask, like, why would someone have this? The key that I paid attention to when I was watching it was the fact that Iris and Paul were not supposed to be there. Paul really wanted to be there so that he could propose to Iris. And Iris at the time was already pregnant. So they were not supposed to be there. They didn't have a reservation. Paul tried to work it out with his friend that worked there, but they had fired that guy. So they were turned away. They were never supposed to be there. And if they had turned away when they did, everything would have been kosher. But they didn't, because Paul really wanted to propose to her. So they end up sneaking in and pretending like they belong there. And then when shit hits the fan, everybody on that tower and several people below the tower are all supposed to die. Now, if it was me and I had a premonition that everybody was gonna die, I would have walked the fuck out and then called the police. But that's not what these movies is about. There's a reason that the main character of all these movies is a white person, because they want to save everybody. And true, I would have tried to save everybody from outside the motherfucking Sky Tower, because I have a huge fear, thanks to these movies as well as many like zombie movies, of being trampled. Like, that is a trauma for me. There was a time when this did kind of happen, but there's a trauma for me around being trampled. So if I am going to yell fire, knowing that I'm nowhere near the exit, I've had many nightmares about this. I'm going to end up dying trying to save everybody else. And literally what happens in her premonition when everybody's trying to save people, the literal chaos that is caused by everyone trying to escape is what gets a lot of people killed. And this happens in all of the movies. Like, almost all of the movies, minus the Flight 181, because in that one, nobody really believes them and they just kind of kick them out, which is like the best thing that could happen. I would not cause a panic. I would literally be like, hey, honey, let's go. And then when we get down there, I would call the police and say, like, I don't think it's structurally sound, or, report it. Now, would people still die? Yeah. But I would have been alive. Me and my man would have been alive, and all of my children would have been saved. And I don't know, maybe it's the black in me. Like, sometimes there's situations where I'm like, hey, there's more going on here than what I can do, than what I can help you with. But it is her premonition that causes her to tell everybody to get off the dance floor because it was going to crack open, and people get off the dance floor and everybody that was there ends up surviving instead of dying. And what then that does is sets off a chain reaction where Death now has to hunt down every single person that was there and every single one of their children in order to right the wrongs. And it took Death literal decades to do this, because all those people went off and had kids, and the kids had kids, and it likes to go in very specific order. I feel like, Death got OCD. Like, they got to go in a very specific order down the family tree. I would have did it a little differently, but I get why they did it that way. And it's cool, it's interesting when you're connecting the dots and you have all these family trees. But Death has to go through every family tree of everybody who survived to kill off their entire families. And so Iris knows about this. And this little black boy, who I immediately knew when I saw the little black boy at the beginning of the movie, I was like, that's William Bloodworth. That's him. Why else would we put attention on a little black boy? Ain't no other little black boys in this series. This is a very white series, by the way. Ain't very many black people in this series for a reason. That's William Bloodworth. And so she, like, goes through the years figuring out that Death's design and that is going through all of these families of all these people who are supposed to die in the Sky Tower. And she helps William understand what's going on as well, because of course his mom probably dies in a freak accident. So he gets tipped off to what's going on. They reconnect. But the problem with Iris is that her family doesn't believe her. She spends all her time researching all of the people that are dying, collecting their obituaries and the photos of their deaths, and it's all very concerning. Everybody thinks she's crazy, and so she ends up getting her children taken away from her. And in a desperate bid to try to keep them safe, she stalks them. She tries to do everything she can to like lock them away from the world and keep them safe, which makes sense. We saw Clear do this in Final Destination 2. We see Clear doing that, and it's only when she leaves that area that she ends up dying too. Now, the interesting thing that I was watching the end credits for, that I was hoping that I might see, was if all the people in the previous movies, if they were the descendants of the people in the Sky Tree. Because from a narrative world building perspective, it would make a lot of sense that was the very first time someone had a premonition. And maybe Iris got that premonition because she was supposed to walk away from the situation. Like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. You need to leave now. But instead of her just leaving, she ends up trying to save everybody and successfully saving everybody. And it starts off a chain reaction. Now, of course, the other people in the movies are not Iris's descendants. But if everybody in all the movies we've seen have been the descendants in one way or another of people at the Sky Tree, that would make a lot of sense. Like maybe, I can't remember what his name was in the movie because I always think of him as the guy from Living Single, but the black guy from Living Single, who was in Final Destination 2, like, you know, maybe he's the son of the black people that are performing on the stage. Like maybe he was one of their sons or grandsons, because there are so many times throughout the series that death goes haywire. It's one thing to just, you know, kill somebody in their bathroom and it looks like a freak accident, or someone spills something in their kitchen and it sets off a fire or whatever. It's another thing to blow up movie theaters, racetracks, trains, you know what I mean? Like, blow up ambulances, blow up hospitals, multiple freak accidents on the road, the immense destruction, blow up planes, the immense destruction that death does throughout the series tells me that they cannot be doing this like all the time. Like if this was a world where planes just blew up on a regular, any large gathering of people would go the way, was it Army of One, I think was the name of that manga by Junji Ito, where like people picked up pretty quickly that gathering in large groups was deadly. So if it was regularly that trains were being derailed, planes were blowing up, race tracks were blowing up, hospitals were blowing up, people would just not gather in groups. It would be deemed way too dangerous. But every single movie, you know, how many bridges are collapsing every year? Every single movie, these people are treated as if this is like a freak accident. Like this is not the norm. Like these things don't normally happen. They're just a crazy thing that randomly happens somewhere in America. So this has to be the fact that all of these people are descendants of the people who were at the Sky Tree, and very specific individuals are getting these premonitions that is leading to them saving people and then having death have to correct it. You know, bus loads of people, planes full of people. Like a plane itself, right, could be like 400 people on a plane, you know? And so death has to do these huge, huge disasters that they have to meticulously plan to get all of these people in the same place at the same time, so that the train can derail or the plane can explode or the movie theater can go explode, or, you know what I mean? Like there are some times when it's like, oh, someone gets hit by a car. That happens every day. But death planning things so meticulously, and then for it to be ruined by someone having a premonition, and then having to track down all, however many dozens of people who believed the premonition and walked away from it, like is really interesting. It's really difficult. But I'm thinking that the only time in this series where such a large group of people have been saved was in this movie, because people actively saw that the glass was about to shatter and they all evacuated. But that was a large group of people. Most of the time in these movies, they end up saving a very small group of people who then go on to die in weird ways. So these people in this sky tree, not only did they all survive and it was like this big miracle, but then they all started dying in ways that Iris and William Bloodworth could track down. That's pretty much what I'm thinking. Everybody who's died in the whole series has been a descendant one way or another of the people who were in the sky tree. And I also think that that's why the majority of the people in these movies are white and end up dying. Now let's talk about something that confuses me. What is the race of this family? Like, I've been looking on Reddit and everything because people are like, let me look at, I don't understand the family tree. I'm also curious as to why the main character of this is Stephanie, why her side of the family is called the Lewises, when in the movie they're referred to as Reyes. But I thought it was really weird because I did not understand the racial dynamics. Iris and Paul are white. They are blonde hair, brunette, white. They have a son who we don't know his actual hair color, but we can assume he's a brunette because his wife has blonde hair, and then the kids are brunette and blonde. So that kind of follows the pattern. But then Darlene, she is a white woman with black hair who marries a Pacific Islander Asian man. So Pacific Islander, native, like Hawaiian, like that kind of Asian man. And they have two Filipino children, where one of the Filipino children looks East Asian as fuck, and then the other one looks kind of more Hispanic-like. And then their last name is Reyes. I was very confused. Like, when I first, first person you see after the whole Skytree debacle is Stephanie, and they're like, Miss Reyes. And I'm like, oh, she's like Hispanic in some way. And I get that Filipino people can have like Spanish names because of colonization and everything like that. I'm just saying, phenotypically, when I saw her, I thought that she was going to have a dad that looked more Hispanic. But she didn't. Looking up the races of the cast members, I can kind of see if they had chosen someone different for Marty Reyes. I think if Tempo Lee's character was Filipino instead, I think all of that would have come together. But it just did not connect the dots phenotypically. Like, when you're looking at genetics, like, the family doesn't make sense on that side. Now, the other side of the family, they white as white bread, so that's fine. But their family did not make sense to me from a race perspective. I kept waiting for the mom to show up, Darlene, and look a certain way. I don't see where in the story they might have said, and maybe they did and I missed it, if Darlene just has a different dad. Like, Iris seemed to be very in love with and traumatized by Paul's death. And from the story of everything, it sounds like, when Paul died, that was when Iris snapped and wanted to protect the children, and the children got taken from her. So I don't remember there being any mention, especially if the kids had to go into foster care and stuff. I don't remember there being any mention of them having another dad or stepdad, or Darlene having a different dad that would cause her to come out looking so differently from her parents. And then having her line of children look so different as well. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. And I know you could say, like, maybe it just took a minute for it to come through. Black hair is a dominant trait, and blonde hair is a recessive trait. So it would make sense for the children to all be brunettes, like the son or the uncle being a brunette and then marrying a blonde, and that's how they have one daughter out of the 3 kids with blonde hair. But yeah, it's just a weird phenotypically, I understand race is a social construct, and I am looking purely at the ethnicities and racial demographics of the actors themselves. Phenotypically, Stephanie does not make sense in this thing. Even Eric, who his mom Brenda comes out and says that he is not actually biologically related to the family, you can still kind of sort of place Eric in the family because of the hair color and him being, being a white guy with brunette hair and stuff like that is what I'm saying. They explore all of the things, right? They explore everything where you would say, would I do this if I was in this situation? Where they say, okay, if we kill somebody and we take their place, how do we even know how many years they have left if that's going to actually help us? And then they look at some babies and they're like, well, we know babies got a lot of years left, but they're like, nah, we couldn't do that. We couldn't do that. No, we could never do that. Right? No, we wouldn't do that. So that was a good one because you saw in another movie where they were like, oh, I took somebody's place, but then it turned out that person was going to die. And then I end up dying again anyway. But so they explore those options. I thought it was a really good thing that they did the fake out with Eric because he was in all the promotional trailers and stuff. We thought he was going to get hit by a car. Then we thought he was going to catch on fire. And what I liked was that I should have expected this because they love doing fake outs in this series. The fact that they showed a trailer of his entire quote unquote death scene should have been an indicator that he wasn't actually going to die that way. Because, you think about it, anytime you see somebody die before the movie, it's like some kind of fake out situation and it's not them actually dying. But they love doing that, whether it's that or it's like a premonition, because we saw in 3 somebody who was able to have 2 premonitions in the same movie. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. In terms of the ending is what you thought it would be. Everybody dies. That's every Final Destination movie, everybody dies. And it was confirmed. Only one person in the entire series of all these movies has lived. Everybody dies. What I liked about the deaths was that they were so ridiculous and out of pocket and made no sense. I liked that they were gory. I liked that they were bloody. What I didn't like was that I feel like there should have been some ways for them to use more practical effects because it just looked like a lot of blood bags exploding. A lot of that was blood bags exploding. And I know that the other movies have used CGI as well. Like, I'm not saying that this is a new thing for the series, but it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it feels kind of not as serious because it's like everybody's just a walking blood bag and they get tapped and then they just explode everywhere and then everybody screams. And it's on par with the series. It's just my own personal gripe. It doesn't make the movie worse, for them to do the same thing that they've always done. Because this movie is really them giving us a lot of what they've always given us. They've always given us the exact same formula. They've always given us the exact same ending. Because at the end of the day, this is literally death and you cannot escape death. It's death. Everybody dies at some point. So for them to survive in any way would have made no sense and would have completely flipped the whole thing on its head. It would have been different. It would have been surprising, but it would have basically betrayed the whole series. So it makes sense that they did it that way. I like that there were kills that were a homage to other kills. So trains derailing, car accidents, log trucks. I love that there was a lot of hints throughout the movie how people were gonna die, like this fucking penny. Like death, in other ones, death is kind of shown up as wind. We see death show up as wind. We've seen death show up as water. Death being a literal penny and just following the characters throughout the whole movie is kind of like when people say like there's a snail after you and you don't know where it is. It's a snail. It's moving slowly, but if it touches you, it will kill you. And it is going to follow you for the rest of your life, no matter where you go on this planet. If that snail touches you, you die. Obviously, everybody's like, it's a snail. I'm just going to keep outrunning it. Eventually, you get tired and you don't know where the snail is. You can surround yourself in salt if you want to, but that may or may not stop it. So watching this penny just be everywhere, slowly following them, getting picked up, put down, tossed around. There's so, I love how these movies give you anxiety over stuff you shouldn't have anxiety over. Like every millennial has this fear of being behind a log truck when even with the making of the movie, they told us they had to use CGI to make the log truck collapse the way it did, because in real life, if it collapses, it just falls off the side of the road. It doesn't ricochet and sling its way through people's windshields and all of this stuff. Like it doesn't actually do that in real life. But every millennial is like, fuck no, I will never be behind a log truck. It was the same way with this. I had so much anxiety watching a fucking penny. And it's supposed, pennies are supposed to be lucky in American culture. So much anxiety watching a penny and like, how is this penny gonna do what it does? Because you can guess how wind is gonna kill you. There's a lot of scenes that are reminiscent of the first movie where it's like, okay, the wind's gonna knock this thing over and that's gonna knock that thing over and it's a chain reaction. Like, we all seen that. But how is a penny gonna kill you? You mean this penny from 1952? Like, that was Def's original thing, was this penny from 1952. And it was like, the penny was gonna kill everybody. And then you stopped it. And then that's why she taped that penny, because she knew that fucking penny was coming after her. And then the penny falls out the book and then it just chases them down for the whole movie. That was fucking hilarious. There was so much anxiety watching a penny. I've never had so much anxiety looking at change before. Hilarious. Amazing. I loved it. Where do the premonitions come from? If my theory or my understanding of the series is correct, Iris got the premonition because she was not supposed to be there. They were turned away at multiple intervals and had chances to leave, but they kept pushing through. And so I believe that in the context of the movie, Death probably sent her that premonition, like, get the fuck out of here. This isn't for you. But when they kept pushing, it changed the timeline to where, okay, you die then, But it wasn't that, I don't think that Iris was ever supposed to die. I think that she was supposed to get that premonition, get out of the sky tree, and everybody else was supposed to die, including Bloodworth. But when she fucked up Def's plan so greatly, she made herself a target. Just like how Eric, because he was fucking with Def's plan, he got in the way. He literally got in the way of Death killing Bobby. That Def was like, fuck it, I'll kill you too. You're just one person out of billions. I'll kill you too. And I think that that's what happened in this one, is that because Iris was gonna get in the way, it was like, okay, well, I'll kill you too because you fucked with Death. That is one of the other things they say, when you fuck with Death, things get messy. So that's why Iris and her whole family tree, because Death is a petty bitch, had to go. So what I'm wondering is, what if the premonitions, and I haven't read the books, I've heard there's other explanations for the premonition that has nothing to do with what I've seen in the movies. What if the premonitions are not because you're supposed to die, but because you're not supposed to die? What if everybody who's had a premonition in this series was never supposed to die? That they were getting the premonitions from Death themselves so that they could get out of the way so Death could kill everybody else. These people were in the wrong place at the wrong time, but they were not on Death's list until they fucked with the order of things. And then they became a target for Death. That's what I think happened. Because I feel like in real life, people have their deja vu moments. They have these moments where they're like, and you think about what the movies were based on, in the sense of, there was one story that I saw when I was watching some video essays about these near-death experiences, where it was like someone was going to get on a plane, but then their mother called or their grandmother called and said, don't get on the plane, and then that plane ended up being the one that was hijacked in 9/11, on some crazy shit, right? And so a lot of times people get these premonitions so that they don't do something. You start seeing these, and I'm, going through a little spiritual journey myself, so I'm recognizing signs now of things where it's like there'll be something where like I'm trying to make a flight, but then a train comes through at the last minute and I miss my flight, and then it find out it's a flight that I never should have been on in the first place. So that's what premonitions, I believe, do in the real world. Like, people have these weird feelings about something, they walk away from it, they end up avoiding like a car accident or a shooting or a building burning down. There's so many of these types of stories where people be like, I was supposed to be there, but I got sick, but I got stuck in traffic, but my ride didn't show up. My ride canceled on me at last minute, but I overslept, and then there's some big tragedy that happens after that. And so I think that that's what it is. I know that I've seen some stuff where people are like, I think in the books, there's some kind of mystical, magical reason for it. But we don't see nobody with tarot cards doing magic in the series. Like, I don't see nobody getting whispers speaking to them. It's just that death is the only supernatural entity that we see in the whole series. So I truly, truly believe, as I talk it out now on the camera, that death is the one sending these premonitions, but the people who receive them are only getting them because they're supposed to get out of the fucking way. And when they don't get out of the way, that's when death decides that they get on the hit list too. Because when you think about Eric was not supposed to die. He literally had 2 times where death warned him to stay the fuck out the way. Death warned him twice. So the first time death warned him was to put him in this super weird saw trap shit where the chain was on his septum piercing and it was wrapping around and all of that stuff. Like, he was like, I could have hung your ass. I could have ripped this nose piercing out your nose. I could have set you on fire. You are literally a miracle that you did not die. You fell into a liquid fire and you didn't die. Glass breaking under your feet, everything. I could have hung you with this chain. You didn't die. Death warned him to mind his business. And instead he was like, I'm going to do what I want. And then death warned him again when they were walking with Stephanie, Julie, and Charlie. And Stephanie was seeing the pattern of someone's about to die. She was getting the little messages, the premonitions and everything that the universe was sending out, what that death was sending out. Saying that, Eric, if you don't stop fucking around, I will kill you. Because then Eric almost got run over by a car. He backed into the street, a la Final Destination 1, and almost got hit by a car. And there was like 2 or 3 times maybe, but I know 2 times at least, where someone almost got hit by a car that seemingly came out of nowhere. And death was warning Eric, but Eric was not paying attention. And that was the thing that Iris taught Darlene, that led to Darlene leaving the family, is that when the universe speaks, when death speaks, you pay attention, you listen. But most people don't pay attention and listen. So Eric was getting messages from death like, I will kill you. Go home and mind your fucking business. And Eric said, no, I'm going to get involved and I'm going to stop you from killing Bobby. He wasn't stopping him from killing Julia per se, because he didn't believe what was going on until it happened. But then he tried to get literally in between Bobby and his death. And so he got killed too. And that, I think, and that's why the people who get the premonitions end up dying. If the people got the premonitions, they should have a short spinoff or something of somebody who got a premonition and they just walked away and didn't save nobody. But if the people who got the premonitions had paid attention to death saying, I will kill you if you don't get out the way, like a mob boss, and they just got out the way. Like, if oh my God, it's so many names. But if the guy from Final Destination 1 got the premonition and got off the plane by himself, if Kimberly got out the car and walked off, if every other character had just walked away from the situation instead of trying to save everybody and stop death, they would have survived. Iris and her whole family tree would have been straight if she and Paul had just walked away instead of her stopping everything from happening the way it did. That's what I believe. Death is like this inevitable force in the series, but also in real life, because like Bloodworth said, everybody dies. It's just a matter of how and when. So yeah, that's all I want to talk about today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, share it on social media and your groups and everything. Contribute to the discourse down below. What do you think about this? Do you think that this is the way you cheat death? By not even cheating death, but kind of just giving death what it wants, you know? Let me know. I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. If y'all have read the books and you know if they're canon or not, and they have additional details you want to share, let me know that down below as well. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.